All righty, let's get the weekend started, Wilson.
Already?
Holy, yes, let's get it going. It's Friday. 39 degrees downtown. Here's a look at First News. It's fair, it's accurate. You get the damn truth. Israel has carried out a series of massive airstrikes overnight on the Hezbollah terrorists in southern Lebanon. The blast rocked Beirut's southern suburbs, sending huge plumes of smoke and flames into the sky. Lebanese state media reported that an Israeli airstrike cut one of their main highways off, also between Lebanon and Syria. You know, they're getting a lot of hardware, those terrorists, in on those routes, and Israel's taking them out as they approach the anniversary date. 1 year, October 7th, the attack on Israel by the Hamas-Hezbollah terrorists. Be a day of reflection in Israel. People are still suffering. Hostages are still missing, including the forgotten 5 Americans that we hear nothing about. Search for victims of Hurricane Helene dragging into its second week now. 215 dead. Still lack of phone service, electricity. Search crews have to head through the mountains. They don't know whether loved ones are missing or safe. Navigating past washed out roads, down power lines, mudslides. North Carolina had a message for those still waiting as we're coming to get you eventually. But still, aid and response has been pretty lackluster from our federal government. They're starting to get heat. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump trying to get the upper hand with working class voters. Harris will be visiting another union stronghold in Flint, Michigan. Organized labor has been a bedrock of the Democratic Party. Harris has been unable to secure endorsements. Why? Well, look at all the jobs that have been lost, from the auto industry to manufacturing to other countries. That's right. And the Democratic policies of electric vehicles have cost companies like General Motors and Ford billions and billions of dollars, where they've had to lay off workers. And because of the strike by the dock workers, Kamala Harris and the Democrats realized, we've got a problem. We got to get this solved, because if we put any more burden on the American economy, people are going to take it out on us at the polls. So the union yesterday, representing the dock workers, suspended their strike. Yep, they decided to wait now until January the 15th. They said it'll give them time to negotiate a new contract. The end of the strike came as the U.S. Maritime Alliance, which represents ports and shipping companies, reached a tentative agreement. According to the statement, the agreement sweetened their wage offer to 62% wage increase over 6 years. Also, more contributions to their pensions and their medical programs. However, those companies did say, if you don't approve that by January 15th, the offer is then off of the table. So we'll see what happens. Kamala Harris yesterday was side by side with former Republican Representative Liz Cheney of Wyoming after they ran her out. The two women delivered a double-barrel denunciation of GOP policy and Donald Trump yesterday. Cheney was one of Trump's fiercest critics because Trump was an outsider. Came in, didn't follow protocol that the Bush and Cheneys had set up for all those years, didn't like him, tried to run him out. Kamala Harris yesterday told the crowd that people of every party must come together. Translation, all you Republicans need to cater and give into our policies.
Exactly right.
We never give into anything that you want, ever.
No.
Ever. But she's trying to capitalize on it. It's not going to get her any more votes, at least down in Wyoming. By the way, a federal judge yesterday put on hold Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's student loan cancellation plan, slamming the door on that. They were hoping this would go through before the election, too. Why? $20,000 loan forgiveness for 43 million student loan borrowers. Why? The people down in North Carolina suffer. They gave them $750, and they had to go through mountains of paperwork and all kinds of things to get it. Judge said you can't do it. Supreme Court already ruled you can't do it. You can't appropriate that kind of money without approval from Congress. So he put a hold on it again. Classes, flights, work all resumed today in Taiwan after a typhoon brought torrential rain to the island, brought much to the island to a standstill. 3 days. Schools and businesses have reopened. Massive flooding in that area. Heavy rains and flooding occurred along their southern and eastern coasts. They got over 5 feet of rain. 5.6 feet of rain in 6 days. In Taiwan, their government and people were able to get their schools, businesses, and roads open in 3 days in their mountainous regions. Our government still hasn't reached the people of Asheville, North Carolina. Prosecutors in L.A. said they're reviewing some new evidence in the case of the Menendez brothers. Try to determine whether they should be serving life sentences for killing their parents in the mansion 35 years ago. L.A. District Attorney said during a conference that attorneys for the Menendez brothers have asked the court to vacate their conviction. A hearing is scheduled for November the 29th. The Internal Revenue Service is expanding their program that will allow people to file their taxes directly with the agency now for free. The Direct File program allows you to calculate and submit your returns to the government without using commercial tax prep software. In 2025 tax season, 30 million people in 24 states will be eligible to participate. It was rolled out as a pilot program in 12 states last year. The IRS commissioner said the program will be permanent and they will expand the eligibility opportunities for taxpayers. It allowed people in certain states with a simple W-2 just to calculate and submit your return directly to the IRS. And in that program, people claim more than $90 million in refunds. It was originally available to taxpayers in California, New York, Arizona, Florida, New Hampshire, South Dakota, Wyoming, Texas, Nevada. States being added this year do not include Montana. More than a dozen tigers have died, contracting bird flu. This at a zoo in southern Vietnam. Caretaker there said the animals were fed with raw chicken that was brought in by some of the nearby farms, and it killed the tigers. Tigers were incinerated, just like the Donald Trump shooter, Mark. 24 hours after he took a shot at Donald Trump, they incinerated the tigers. They've got 3,000 other animals there, so they're taking care of the rest of them, checking them, seeing if it will transfer to other animals at the zoo. Global shares a little higher today, even though the tensions in the Middle East are worsening. However, it's affecting oil prices, folks. Oil yesterday jumped. It's now over $77 a barrel. By the way, don't forget the Biden administration. They have pretty much sucked down our oil reserves for any type of national emergency in our country. They were doing that, trying to bring the price of fuel down. So our national reserves right now have not been filled back up, and oil prices are now on the rise, $77 a barrel. Yesterday on our stock exchange, the S&P was down 0.2 of a point. The Dow fell 0.4. Dow was down 184 points. NASDAQ also fell yesterday about 6 points on the NASDAQ exchange. Number of Americans applying for unemployment was up 225,000. 1.83 million people still collecting unemployment checks at the end of the last week of September, with a little over 7.8 million jobs still available out there. Record numbers of South Americans are now coming to the United States. They're seeking better economic opportunities, and many migrants have also been unprepared for the realities of their new home in America. Last year, 900,000 women and girls tried to cross the southern border. That's a 5-fold increase. Finding a job and an affordable place to stay has been anything but easy. But thank God we're giving them thousands and thousands of dollars when they get here, while the people in North Carolina got $750. 2 senators have asked the Department of Justice to take tougher action against Boeing executives because of the safety issues. Elizabeth Warren and Richard Blumenthal. He's one of the 2 dicks in Washington. You've got Blumenthal and Durbin. They want to hold them criminally accountable for passenger safety. The senators' letters come ahead of a federal hearing next week on Boeing's agreement in connection with its 737 MAX. One of them crashed, killing 346 people. Well, I also see here, too, in the paper today that Billings police were still looking for that suspect in that road rage thing on Wednesday, and they haven't found him yet. They know who it is, I'm sure, and because of the car and everything else, that high-speed pursuit through the heights, and the suspect ran away and disappeared in an apartment complex, and they're still looking for him. No injuries or damage in a shooting incident with weapons being fired, but that investigation still continues. And Sam Dutcher said he had just finished running his errands when the 18-year-old's Honda Pilot suddenly began to accelerate, and his foot wasn't on the gas pedal, and the brake wouldn't work. He couldn't shift into neutral, and before long, his runaway SUV was speeding into the western Minnesota countryside with no way to stop. He had to brake to the floor, he said, and the SUV kept going faster and faster, at one point reaching 120 miles an hour. A last-ditch plan averted disaster as a trooper sped in front of him, and he was told to crash into the rear of a squad car, allowing it to ease safely to stop moments before reaching a dangerous intersection. He graduated high school in May, studying auto mechanics. Good. Maybe he can figure out what's wrong. It wouldn't slow down. He tried using voice command to phone 911. That didn't work. So he called his mom. Then, Mom, I'm going to need some grape soda and some toilet paper after this one. But, it just took off for some reason. Couldn't shut it down. I don't know whether he turned the key off either.
No.
Or anything like that. You panic in that kind of situation and you don't know what to do. He's got an emergency brake.
Right.
You can always try that avenue.
See, I've never been able to get the cops to buy that one.
Yeah. My car just started speeding at 138 miles an hour off the straightaway between Cody, Wyoming and Billings. Officer, I'm
Damnedest
sorry.
thing I ever saw.
Yeah. Boy, that would do it. Cat Country News Time is 6:45. Sports and weather next.
In sports, I'm a fan. I'm going to get a Reds baseball cap. The Cincinnati Reds have hired Terry Francona. And Paul and I talked about this a little bit this morning. He retired October 3rd of 2023, had a good run as a player, a coach, a manager, won Manager of the Year 3 different times, and he said, I'm retired. But, folks, when they call you with that money thing,
Yeah, I know it.
you know, I could coach a couple more years.
I hate getting up at 3:45 in the morning. How much? Yeah. Well, he played for the Reds, I think, for a year or so.
1987, he was a Red.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, I remember that.
He was
yeah.
the first-round pick of the Expos in 81. He played for the Expos, Cubs, Reds, Indians, and Brewers. Managed the Phillies, Red Sox, and Cleveland. And I don't really follow baseball, but I know he's a good guy, and people like him. And so he's come to the Reds.
Mark,
Yeah.
excuse me. They're the Guardians now. Cleveland.
Oh, yeah, not to me.
Yeah, I know. So
They're still the Redskins.
All right,
They're still the, you know.
we could use another 2 weeks off. So that's fine.
Let me write a little
That's
something really
right.
quick.
Yeah, why don't you write an article on that today, Mark? I think that would be great. Along with your 10-4 crap that you've been doing all day today. Going to warm up today, folks. 84 degrees. And 68 tomorrow, so we cool off Saturday. Sunday back up to 75. So David Bell, nice guy, just never did it. I talked to my buddy Dan O'Brien, used to be the GM of the Reds, and over the weekend because I was worried about him. And he said, yeah, the Reds, with all of that young talent they had this year, really, really underachieved.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can keep it,
Yeah.
and get a guy like that in there, he's what they call a player's manager.
Right.
They like players like those kind of managers.
Right.
And he lets them play the game.
Right. Kind of manager I'd be.
Yeah. We've all worked for people who are overbearing. No doubt about that. Try to control everything. I'm not that way.
Not at all.
So that's why all my kids are gone. Every one of them.
But the grandkids are coming, Dad.
Yeah, I know. Any day. 39 out there right now. That's what's happening. It's been a very interesting morning, folks. If you don't know what Steve with a PH is, you've missed a lot today on the Cat.
The Humana Honor Medicare Advantage Plan gives you $1,680 back each year in your Social Security check. Choose coverage that helps you keep more money in your pocket. Learn more at gethumana.com. Humana, a more human way to healthcare. The Part B Give Back benefit pays part or all of your Part B premium, and the amount may change based on the amount you pay for Part B. Limitations and restrictions may apply. Humana is a Medicare Advantage HMO and PPO organization with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in any Humana plan depends on contract renewal.